So there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and final. He is not plain, and the body is plain.
Okay. Text 20. See, there is a translation of Sri Baladevi Devakan's commentary. So those who are interested can go through it. Bhanumara is translation. 80% is okay. It's just very. It needs to be meticulously studied. That's why I didn't make it a part of this course. I'm not testing assessments based on this. Okay. Acha jayate asti vardhate parinamate apakshiyate vinashyati iti yaskal yukta shambhavakara rahityam praguttanatitvam radhayati na jayate. So he has already stated that the Jivatma is eternal. But now he reinforces it by saying it does not undergo any of the 6 bodily transformations. Jayate, the body takes birth. Asti, the body remains for some time. Vardhate, the body grows. Viparinamate, it produces byproducts. Apakshiyate, it dwindles, starts becoming old. Vinashyati, it is destroyed. What is wrong? Audio is very low. Why is audio very low? Is it? Something doing this? Is it jack mic?
Is it better now? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Supposed to be. Now it's fine. Okay, thank you. So these 6. Sorry. So the 6 transformations, they are not experienced by the soul, the Atma, meaning the Jiva. At no point it is born, or it doesn't die, and so on. So the different adjectives that Lord Krishna uses here, they are all pertaining to these 6 changes. And Lord Krishna is basically saying that he's denying the idea that the living entity goes through any of these 6 changes. That's why he's saying in so many different ways. Yasmat idrishaha tasmat sharire hanyamane api sana hanyate. Because the Jivatma does not undergo any of these 6 transformations. Therefore, even when the body is killed, the soul is not killed. Tasma tatha cha arjunahayam guruhanta iti avigya uktya dushkirtehe avriyata vaya shastriyam dharma yudham vidheyam. So Arjuna should not become frightened of the ill reputation caused by ignorant people that he has killed his gurus. So he should just carry out his dharma yuddha, which is in accordance with Shastra. I would like someone to read out this purport, important purport, the entire purport.
The small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kutastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because it takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and primeval. That is, there is no trace in the history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc., of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old as the body does. The so called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as in his childhood or youth. The changes of the body do not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproduct either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different individual souls, and owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. In the Katha Upanishad 1.2.18, we also find a similar passage which reads, Najayate mriyate va vipaschin nayam kutaschin na babhua kaschit. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The meaning and purport of this verse is the same as in the Bhagavad Gita, but here in this verse there is one special word, vipaschit, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that it is therefore daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky early in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teachings of Bhagavad Gita would be useless. There are 2 kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Anuatma, and the super soul, Vibhuatma. This is also confirmed in the Katha Upanishad 1.2.20 in this way. Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya janto nihito guhayam tam akratuh pashyati vita shoko dhatuh prasadan mahimanam atmanaha. Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated on the same tree of the body within the same heart of the living being, and only one who has become free from all material desires as well as lamentations can, by the grace of the Supreme, understand the glories of the soul. Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapters, and Arjuna is the atomic soul, forgetful of his real nature. Therefore, he requires to be enlightened by Krishna or by his bona fide representatives, the spiritual master.
21.
Nityam yahenam atam avyayam tatam sapurusha partha tam nathayati antakam. O Partha, how can a person
who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill.
एवं तत्त्वज्ञानवान् यो धर्मबुद्ध्या युद्धे प्रवर्तते यश्च प्रवर्तते तस्य तस्य च कोटिन दोषगन्धः वेदेति. So a person who knows the truth about the soul and who is engaged in the war with conception, with the religious conception, with the conception of dharma, understanding that it is scriptural duty. And a person who causes another person to do this. So you have one person who's fighting, and another person who's impelling this person to engage in the activity of fighting. Neither of them has even a slight trace of defect. That is now pointed out. Everything has its proper utility. And a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility. And how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace, the justice of the peace means a judge awards capital punishment, death punishment, to a person condemned for murder. The justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. In Manusumhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life, he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Everything in Vedic Dharma is like this. You cannot, you won't be able to find any, you'll not be able to understand it unless you consider karma vipaka, the maturation of karma over lifetime. Everything in Vedic Dharma is made on this calculation. Paratrika phala, it is called. The result that you get in your next life. Everything is designed for next life. Like even this capital punishment. Why is capital punishment? In today's world, capital punishment is considered abominable. You don't kill anyone. There are various strange and funny ideas that they have to abolish capital punishment. But in the Vedic scripture, we have it very clear. If a person has murdered another person, he should be killed. That's all. This is for the overall benefit of society, and also, more importantly, if he does not experience that punishment now, then in his next life, he will be experiencing that punishment even more grievously. So it is out of compassion for that individual that such an arrangement is there. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice, and thus Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate, the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. So-called, so-called, typing mistake. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. In general, everything in karma dharma, jnana dharma, yoga dharma, dharma, everything makes sense only when you understand the intricacies of how they produce their effects later on. Later on means next life. Because even if you want to become a loving associate of Krishna, premavat parshidatva, that is the goal of sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, is supposed to lead to the status of an associate of the Supreme Lord who has love for him. But that also can only be achieved next life. You can, because after you die, then you're transferred to some other universe where Krishna Lila happens. And under the guidance of the eternal associates of Krishna, then you are trained further until you become fit to directly serve Krishna. So Even that, and what to speak of liberation? Liberation also is only after you leave this world, you leave the subtle body, you leave your community, everything is gone. Then only you are transferred to the other side of Brahmajyoti, even impersonal liberation, later. Everything is later. Right now, you may just get some preliminary, like a trailer, get something is just shown to you. Okay, see how nice it is. That's the real thing, but right now you're getting something. So everything is meant for ultimate benefit, the actual benefit that you're going to get will come later. But it is not just sudden. There are also various avantra, there are various intermittent results. Like for instance, even the process of Bhakti Yoga. Sadhana Bhakti will lead to Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti is a time from when internally you start seeing Krishna directly, intermittently. And in Prema Bhakti, one is continuously seeing Krishna. But even in the stage of sadhana, there are various symptoms of each stage. In Madhurya Kadambini, there's a very detailed description of symptoms. While you're making spiritual progress, that's all you can understand. Whether you're progressing or regressing, you can understand. Whether somebody else is progressing or regressing, also you can understand. So these are all brought out very clearly. So it is not just some fantasy. The same way that is for Bhakti Dharma. In Yoga Dharma also, there is Ashtanga process. There are some different milestones that are given, with which you can check whether you're progressing or regressing. Same way in the Jnana system. Same way even in karma. It's not that you're doing something and you die and then suddenly you're taken to Swarga. There are various milestones that can be experienced. But overall, the ultimate benefit is for the next life. 22.
यथा विहाय नवानि पुनः नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जन्ना अन्यानि स्वयं नवानि देहि. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
So because everything is ultimately based on knowledge of the Jivatma being different from the body, this civilization, the Vedic civilization, is absolutely incompatible with non-Vedic civilizations. Because they simply don't have this much basic knowledge. Just like people who are blind are different from people who are, okay, there are people who are blind and who are not taking up eye treatment from competent doctors. Then there may be another group of blind people who are taking up treatment from eye doctors, competent eye doctors. Then there is another group of people who actually have their eyesight. These three are very, very different from each other. If you have people who are blind and they can be cured, but they don't want to be cured, then they are living in a totally different world, even though they may be physically close by. Similarly, those who are materialistic, they cannot understand something as simple as this, that you change your body the way you change your clothes. That's all. It's a simple thing. But they are not able to understand it. So therefore, it's very important that we don't establish emotional relationships with these kinds of people. We don't accept them as our Shiksha gurus and so on. It becomes a big problem. Nanu ma bhud atmanam vinashaha. Okay, the Atmas don't die, fine, I'll accept that. Bhishmati sangyanam tat shariranam tat sukha sadhananam yuddhena vinashe tat sukha vichcheda hetukaha dosha syadeva. Still, there is a problem, and that is that Bhishma and the others, they are actually names for particular bodies. And these bodies, they are the instruments with which those souls can experience happiness. If through this war, these bodies are destroyed, then you're separating those souls from their potential happiness. And then anyatha prayachita shastrani nirvishayani syuhu. If the bodies are not going to help you attain material happiness, if the body is not significantly important, then why is there all these scriptural injunctions about Prayaschitta, atonement? So, is it not important that we don't have this war? We stop this war because let all of them be happy. Okay, the soul is different from the body, but still the body gives happiness. Just like we use different things, we use computers, we use phones. We know that these are not us, but still we utilize them for our happiness. So why not utilize the bodies for happiness? So anticipating this, Lord Krishna speaks the current verse, Vasamsi. Stula jirna vasas yagena, navina vaso dharanam. Iva. Every time we are going to be doing this. Oh, what happened? My default speaker is taken speakers. So many things have happened. What has happened now? Come on, we'll just continue. So for these pious souls to give up, for them to give up their gross, old bodies, it's like giving up whatever. Jack Mike. Can anyone hear me? If anyone can hear, please do put a message. Otherwise, I'll just assume you can hear me. Yes, okay, thank you. Very clear. Okay, thank you. So it's like giving up an old body, old cloth, old, thick, rough cloth, and instead of that, wearing fine new clothes. So to give up an old human body and to get a youthful celestial body, that is like wearing new clothes, very fine, fresh clothes. Ati sukha karameva, it is extremely delightful. Adubhayam cha yuddhena eva kshipram bhavet. And that you can, and both of this happens very quickly because of this war. So therefore you are actually doing good to Bhishma, Drona and others. So don't stop this endeavor to participate in this war. Samyati. This word Samyati is used in the last line. Samyati, verily accepts. Samyak garbha vasadi yatta nam vinaeva shikhameva prapnoti yatta. Quickly accepts. That soul will very quickly accept a far better body. So they will not go through the process of being inside the womb of a woman and go through all these torments and tortures. They just get a divine body. It's like that. Prayaschitta vakyani tu yajna yuddha vadhad anyasmin vatinaya. The statements about Prayaschitta, atonement, they are referring to killing outside of sacrifices, warfare, and so on. Transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the super soul. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas like the Mundaka Upanishad as well as the Shvetashvatara Upanishad compare the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is a witnessing bird, and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from one body to another. The Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both the Mundaka Upanishad and Shvetashvatara Upanishad confirm this. Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nishayasho chatimuhyamana jishtam yada pashyat kanyameshamasya mahimanam iti vidashoka. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend, Krishna, and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. So we should clearly understand that the distinction between the limited soul, the Jivatma, the unlimited soul, the Paramatma, and the non-soul matter, the body. So while the living entity goes through various phases of the body, at a certain point, the body will die. So then the soul has to be shifted to another body according to his material propensities, his vasanas, and according to his karmic reactions. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation.
Can we have a question?
You can ask questions whenever you want.
Okay,
While I'm talking about it now, in the Gurukul system, that's how it is. Everyone can ask whatever they want. Any objection, any attack, everything is okay. It is usually expected half of the time goes into all that. Yeah, fine.
actually, what is the time gap between one soul leaves a body and accepts another body? Is it immediately or is it as a time period?
Prabhupada says actually the next body, the details about the next body are fixed even before one dies. There are particular demigods who are in charge of that. They are witnessing. There's a whole system. We are always under TV camera. Each and every conditioned soul is being observed. We are all being observed. Big Brother is watching. Always. So our next body, Prabhupada says, is already fixed. It is finalized on, they give you a chance all the way up to you die. But it's more or less fixed. It's just like when you download a file. Okay. It's already predicted. This will take 45 minutes. This will take 35 minutes. The bandwidth is high or low, based on that, it goes on changing. But more or less, it's fixed. So like that, it's already fixed. Okay, this fellow is going to get a demigod body as of now. Unless he does something. He does something wrong, okay, demigod body, later on, right now, animal body. Okay. So in that way, it goes on, it's all being fixed. Same way, if he is interested in attaining liberation, okay, liberation after 75 lifetimes as of now. Okay. Become more serious, reducing 60 lifetimes. Okay, even more serious, 45 lifetimes, 20 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes, 12 lifetimes, like that it is. And you do something wrong, then it is wrong. All these things happen. It's all, Prabhupada actually says that. If you are not serious about Krishna consciousness, you're not following the 4 regulative principles strictly, you're not seriously chanting, you're not constantly engaged in devotional service. He said, if you're interested in going back to Godhead in 300 lifetimes, that is something else. But I'm giving all these temples, everything, so that within 1 lifetime you can. It's all facility. Because it's all Bhakti Anupur. Strictly speaking, Prabhupada also says that at some point we are supposed to give up eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and simply engage in the activities of devotion, service, keep Krishna. Simply just engage in chanting Hare Krishna and various forms of devotion service. So it's just facility. So it is already fixed. So after the soul leaves the body, immediately he is transferred to the next. Now, in between, whether he is supposed to suffer as a ghost and so on, that all depends on what activities he does. There is something called akala mrityu, untimely death. Untimely death may be caused by murder, somebody murdered and so on. Somebody may commit suicide. The jiva must get this freedom to experience untimely death or make somebody else experience untimely death also. In which case, they'll be punished further. Further, they'll be punished. Like prisoners inside jail, they may still do more crime. They already put in jail. Inside the jail also, they may try to kill someone. So then they put in jail inside the jail. There is something in every jail, good jail. There's a jail inside the jail. Solitary confinement. Where you're just alone. Alone. Food is all just thrown to you. It's a place where you can pass to take bath. So animal body is like solitary confinement. Human body is like regular confinement. There are also some the prisoners who are quite good in behavior. They're allowed to assist in they're allowed to assist the police. So the computer operator may be actually a prisoner, but he's a very good prisoner. He's allowed to come into the computer room, it's an AC room, and he helps with different things. These things go on even in India, even now. These things happen. The government also will be trying, even in a country like India, they try to reform the prisoners. They try to give them some vocational training. You're interested in carpentry? Okay, I'll train you on carpentry. You're interested in studies? They have a library where you can study. So many things they do. They call religious groups and they tell them you come and preach every Christians, they come and preach on Sundays. Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah. Chandramani Maharaj is here. He's in charge of the prison preaching. Very, very important. Very important, I'm telling you. Because a number of prisoners are actually falsely framed. Somebody else does a thing and through bribing, the police, it's just all staged like a drama. They come and they're arrested. Want to cover up. So their preaching is a very important. At that time, they are so disturbed, so they listen to anything. So a number of people take to Krishna consciousness. Their preaching is very important activity. Very, very important. You can change people's lives upside down. Very, very important activity. So the body, the next body is fixed immediately, and one is immediately supposed to get the next body. There's no description that now that experience of that soul, if the soul is going to hell, for instance, we find in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is like a detailed study of whatever comes in Bhagavad Gita. The soul who is going to hell, he is dragged through a pathway by the Yamaduta. And that going and all is very slow. Actually, when you go lower and lower and lower in the universe, time is slower. When you go higher and higher and higher, it's fast. So some thousands of lifetime inside some hellish planet. It's just maybe not much time here. It's just our 10 minutes or something. But in there, it is like thousands of years. Because there are more souls who commit sinful activities than pious activities. So they need to be punished. And the punishments are also specified. If you engage in illicit activity, then you're made to embrace some molten, some terrible, and that also for the 200 years you have to suffer. So 200 years you have to suffer. But it may not be our 200 years actually. Their 200 years. So, but when you are taken there, it appears to be a long period of time. That is there. Okay.
What about car accidents and all? Is that occur with you?
Accidents, is it always occurring with you? Need not be. Need not be.
You are like going very fast. You like whimsically, just for pleasure, some riders and
I cannot decisively say it is untimely death. It may be timely death also. That person may be destined to die. When you are supposed to experience a violent death, that's what you. People in today's world, they are extremely violent world it is. How many animals they are killing, how many human beings they are killing. There are abortion count, you can check in the internet, how many unborn babies are being murdered. No, I don't want to see that. But it's very terrible. Even in a place like India, we are talking about some tens of thousands of abortions happening on a daily basis. In India alone. So what to speak of other countries. So much here they're killing, so they have to experience it. Maybe the children who are being killed in the womb where previously they had killed. That possibility also is there. Very violent. Adharma is filled with violence.
If somebody dies, we go and read Bhagavad Gita 12 days after he died at his home. How does it help him?
It goes into his account.
Within that 12 days.
Yeah, into their souls. Even Shranta, this is spiritual. But even material karmakanda rituals that they perform, if you properly perform, it goes into that soul's account. But today's world of digital payment, we will clearly understand account. You do something, you can send money. No, so you send some sukriti, you send some punya. Okay, 24.
23rd.
Sorry, 23.
Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakani, nainam kridayanta puvanaso shati maruta. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by the fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
Navi Shastrapataihi Sharira Vinashati, Tadantasthasya Atmanaha Vinashasya. Another potential objection. By me throwing all these arrows at them, their bodies will be destroyed. So if the body is destroyed, then the Atma which is inside the body, that will also be destroyed. Just like if there is an animal or some creature or some living organism, could be a human being also, inside a home, and the home is set on fire, it also dies. The Atma could also die. Potential objection. Shastrani Khandadi. Weapons refer to swords and so on. Pavakaha Agnayastra. Fire refers to the fire weapon. Apaha Parjanyastra. And water refers to the Parjanyastra. the weapon of rain. Marutaha. Marutaha, wind refers to the Vayuvyas. Tatha cha prayuktaihi shastraihi na atmana kachid vyatha. None of them have any effect on the soul. No, the soul does not experience any pain because of different weapons that you may be using to attack. Details about all these mystical weapons are very commonly available like in Mahabharata. All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were contracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Amai Jivaloke Jiva Buddha Sanatana. So we are Sanatana Amsha of Bhagavan. We are not, it's not that at one point in time we got cut off. Eternally like that. We are co-eternal with Krishna. There are a number of different entities which are co-eternal with Krishna. But they are all co-eternal because of Krishna's will. Krishna is eternal. Krishna's energy, external energy is eternal. We are marginal energy, we are also eternal. Internal energy, eternal. Time is eternal. The Vedas are eternal. So whenever we say that they came from Krishna, you should not misunderstand that at some point in time they did not exist, and from that time only they came. That's not the idea. Always with Krishna. They come, they're manifested. That's the maximum you can say. Manifested to the conditions. This material prakriti is variety is manifested to the conditions. Because they are atomic individual souls eternally, Sanatana, they're prone to be covered by the illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of a fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So that Varaha Purana quotation makes it clear that there's a distinction between Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha. Here's this expression. Swamsha, Vibhinnamsha. Vibhinnamsha refers to the Jivatma. Swamsha refers to the different plenary portions. Prabhupada uses this expression, plenary portion. Plenary means complete. Portion is a part of something that is complete. So then how can it be both complete and part? So the understanding is, just like at night, we may say, today is the half moon night. Now, when you say it is a half moon night, a full moon night, half moon night does not mean that it is half of a moon. Not that the moon is broken into half, but it is half. It means it only half is visible. Because half is visible, we refer to it as a half moon. So, like that, when Krishna manifests only 60 out of 64 primary qualities, then we refer to him as a plenary portion. He's not manifesting all of his qualities. Therefore, that particular form is referred to as a swamsha. But with the Jivatma, it is not like that. The Jivatma is a different individual. Jivatma is eternally dependent on Krishna. It's a different individual. Whereas the various unlimited Vishnu Tattva forms, they are not different individuals. They're the same person. He is also Krishna himself. But he is Krishna who has chosen to never manifest certain qualities. That's all. So Narayana, for instance, he will never manifest the four qualities that he himself in the form of Krishna manifests. The same person. We are not believers in many gods. One God. Only one Krishna. That is the distinction between Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha. That is why Prabhupada refers to the Jivatmas as separated parts and parcels. Another way to say it would be the Vishnu Tattva expansions are Abhinna. The Jivatmas are Vibhinna. Simpler way to understand. They are eternally so according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. It's not that at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, all right, so now you understand, let's merge together. Okay. Text 24.
Achedhyam adahyoyam apledya shosya evacha nityak sarvagatasthānur achaloyam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
Chedanya bhava eva tatan nama bhedayam akhyayate ityaha chudya. Because he cannot be cut, he cannot be burned. The Jivatma is now referred to as the one who cannot be cut, who cannot be burned, and so on. This is all just to reinforce it, the same point is brought up once again. Evakara sarvai sambadhyate. Sarvagata, that's a word here, sarvagataha. Sarvagataha, all pervading. Sarvagataha literally means the one who goes everywhere, one who has gone everywhere. Sarvagataha. Should not mistakenly think that here Krishna is teaching that the Jivatma is all pervading. That is not the sense. It is Sarvam Gataha. It is Sarvagata. He has gone everywhere, so therefore he is called Sarvagata. Swakarma Hetu Keshu Deva Manava Adishu Pashu Pakshadishu Cha Sarveshu Sharireshu Paryayena Kataha Taptaha Api Iti Arthaha. In sequence, one after another, he, according to his karmic reactions, he goes to the body of a deva, he goes to the body of a human being, he goes to the body of a bird or an animal, and so on. So he goes to various bodies, one after another. So even though he goes to all these places, his nature does not change. It is not that he goes to a demigod body, then his nature changes. There are some people who think that there are actually different types of souls. Sattvic souls, Rajasic souls, Tamasic souls. Very strange idea, but some people actually believe it. Very seriously they believe. But that is not the teachings of the Acharyas. It is not the teachings of scripture also. Bhagavatam certainly makes it clear that Jivatmas are of only one type. Anu, Sthiraswarupa. Anu indicates that his constitutional position is fixed. Achalaha Sthira Gunakaha. Achala indicates that his features are fixed. The scripture itself says very clearly that the Atma's nature cannot be separated from it. So its eternal qualities can never ever be separated from it. All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit soul, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the personality of Godhead. The word Sarvagata, all pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. There are some organisms which have been discovered, hyperthermophiles. They love heat. Below 100 degrees, they will die because it's too cold for them. So they've discovered some living organisms which cannot be burnt by fire. Therefore, there's no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word Sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. 25.
Achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitum arhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body.
Abhyakta Satyam, Chakshurajya Grahya. Abhyakta, invisible. It is something which cannot be grasped by the eyes and other knowledge. There are two types of senses. Jnanendriyas, knowledge acquiring senses. Karmendriyas, working senses. And feet, these are working senses. We do things with them. But eyes, ears, we receive input from the external world. These are Jnanendriyas. So the soul cannot be perceived through the Jnanendriyas. Achintyaha, Tarka, Hocharaha, Shrutimatra Gamyaha. The Jivatma is inconceivable. It is beyond logic, which means it can be understood only through the Shastra, Shruti. Jnana Swarupaha, Gyata, Ityadikam, Shrutyaiva Pratiyate. Because only from the Shruti, only from the scriptures, we understand that the living entity is both consciousness and conscious. These kind of the actual features of the soul can only be grasped from the scripture. Actually, through sense perception and logic, there are certain things you can come to a conclusion about. You can come to the conclusion that reincarnation is reality, karma is reality. The Buddhists have successfully proven, simply logically, and even the Nyaya school. We talk about Shad Darshan, 6 philosophical systems. One of that is Nyaya, and that's the school of logic, Gautama Rishi's school. And in that line, they logically prove that there is God and that there is an Atma. There was one Udayana Acharya who wrote Nyaya Kusmanjali. He wrote some solid books on logic. Purely on logical basis, he proves that reincarnation and karma is real. Till now, it has not been refuted. So powerfully is proven. Similarly, the very fact that this world is created, you've got a full book on that. Very, very powerful logic. But nevertheless, the actual nature of the Jivatma is inconceivable. Even if you say that, okay, there is reincarnation, there is karma, the exact nature of the soul, that you cannot understand. The Buddhists think that there is no soul. They accept reincarnation and karma, but they don't understand that there is an Atma. So it is inconceivable unless you surrender to Vedic Shastra. Avikarya cannot be changed, unchangeable. Shadbhava Vikara Anarha is unfit for the 6 transformations. So repeatedly, Lord Krishna has stated the soul is imperishable and so on. In different words, he has repeated. Sometimes some words itself he has repeated. This is because it's a very complicated subject and it has to be made simpler for understanding. So there's nothing wrong with this. In the Vedic system of communication, specifically in teaching, you're not supposed to unnecessarily repeat things. That's called redundancy. Punarukti, dosha. It's a defect. So why is Krishna repeating again? Because it is allowed for clarification. If some subject matter is very, very difficult, then you are allowed to repeat. For emphasis also, you can repeat. In Indian languages have basically emanated from Sanskrit. So even now in today's world, we use the syntax of Sanskrit many times. Like we repeat things to emphasize. You are simply walking and walking. We talk like this in India to indicate that he was just focused on his walking. He didn't think about anything else. So repetition is used for various purposes, including emphasis. Ayam dharmam vedti iti uktao tad vedanam nishchitam yathasya tadvat. It is just like saying that this person understands dharma. So that is meant for emphasis. Repeatedly you keep saying, Evam agre vakshyati ascharyavat pashyati kaschit. Similarly, Krishna will again say that the soul is very astonishing. Some people see it as astonishing, some people hear about it as astonishing, and so on. So again, you will find that Krishna is emphasizing. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. Or if the mother is unreliable, you have to depend on some DNA scientist. But you have to depend on someone else. You cannot just understand certain things by yourself. There's no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother if the mother is truthful lady. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is a statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite supreme soul. The supreme soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. That means it's smallest. The supreme soul is the biggest. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul of the supreme personality of God. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways, just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error.
And then consciousness means, consciousness Chaitanya, person,
Correct. Chaitanya, Chetana.
and consciousness means Chetana.
Chetana.
So in previous purpose, so was saying that consciousness is the symptom of soul.
Yes.
So when we are saying that the soul is consciousness, the soul has consciousness, these two are different. No, but consciousness,
So it is nothing but just like sugar. It is sweet. You may have milk which is mixed with sugar, then you say the milk is sweet. Okay. But a sugar is sweet itself. A sugar is not mixed with something else to become sweet. Okay. So it is nothing but sweet.
that's it. We say
Just like we refer to rasgulla as a sweet. Take this sweet. But actually it is something which gives sweetness. But because it is nothing but sweet, then you get the name sweet. Or this is the light. We call this light. It is actually the source of it. Because it is not light mixed with darkness. There are no spots of darkness there.
since we can never separate that consciousness from the soul, that's why we say that the soul is consciousness. So that is eternal
Yeah.
characteristic.
Yeah, because that is the conception of a person with the subtle body and gross body. We refer to him as a person. Conventionally, we refer to him as a person. Therefore, we say he's walking, he's talking. Conventionally, we don't say he's walking with his subtle body and soul. We don't talk like that. Or we don't say he's walking with the subtle body and gross body. We say he's walking. Okay. So to distinguish between that and the soul, pure soul, you have to identify his nature so distinctly. If he's conscious, but the person, Mr. X, who has a subtle body and who is the soul inside the subtle body. This is a complete combination. In Bhagavatam, we refer to it as the Adhi Bhautika Purusha. That means it is the soul covered by the subtle body and the gross body, everything put together. The entire combination we refer to as a person. That person, is he conscious? He's also conscious. Jivatma is that conscious? That's also conscious. How do you distinguish between these two? So then you will have to point out this Adhibhautika Purusha. This person, this Mr. X, who is actually a Jivatma, covered by subtle body, and the life airs, and the gross body, all of that put together. He is not entirely spiritual. There are many elements inside that personality which are not conscious. The gross body is not conscious by itself. The life airs are not conscious by themselves. The subtle body is not conscious by itself. Atma is conscious. Inside the Atma is a super soul. The super soul is both inside the soul and next to the soul. Okay. So the Supreme Lord, who is ultimately internal, is fully spiritual. Jivatma is also fully spiritual. But other things are not fully spiritual. So when you are referring to the Adi Bhautika, the combination of the soul and subtle body and the life airs and the gross body, then you can no longer say that he is consciousness and conscious. He's conscious, but he's not fully conscious. You cannot say he's consciousness itself. So to distinguish between these two different ideas, this is repeatedly brought up. It's repeatedly brought up. In Sanskrit, the expression used is jnana. Jnana means knowledge, but it also has a higher meaning of awareness, experience, consciousness. And jnana itself is referred to in two different ways: jnana swarupa, dharma bhuta jnana. These are terminologies that we get from Ramanujacharya. And we also use it. Maladev Vidyabhutana Prabhu also uses it. Dharma bhuta jnana. That word is already, that expression already came. Dharma bhuta jnana refers to consciousness. Jnana swarupa refers to the Jivatma. But both are said to be knowledge, consciousness. So the Vedas do say that he is consciousness. The Vedas also point out that he is conscious. Even in Bhagavatam, we come across this, that the Supreme Lord is consciousness, we come across. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam ye jnanam advaita. Jnanam, non-dual consciousness. Learned souls know that the absolute truth is non-dual knowledge, non-dual consciousness. What does it mean? It means his entire body is spiritual. His entire body is spiritual. It's not a combination of chit and achit. Whereas currently the personality that we perceive with our external senses, this is combination of Sachidananda with Asat Achit Nirananda. So to distinguish between these conceptions, the Atma is described like 26.
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty army.
एवं स्वोक्तस्य जीवात्मनः अशोच्यत्वत्वा परोक्तस्य अपि तस्य तदुच्यते परमतः ज्ञानाय. So now Lord Krishna has pointed out so far that Jivatma should not be an object of lamentation. You don't need to lament for the Jivatma. This is in accordance with his teachings. Now what he does is, he says, it is not just according to my opinion. You look at the opinions of those who don't accept Vedic authority also. Even according to them, you should not lament for anyone. You don't have to lament for any living person. Why is Lord Krishna bringing this up? Paramata Jnanaya. Because you are meant to know about the opposing ideologies. Tat abhigya kalu shishya, tat avakaraihi, tan nirasya, vijayi san, swamatis thiryamasi. Why is he speaking this? Because the disciple, the student, is supposed to become knowledgeable in these other philosophies so that he becomes aware of their defects, so that he can refute these other philosophies. He can become victorious. And why is that required? So that he can become fixed in his own understanding. Tathahi manushyatvad vishishte. Okay, then you find this idea coming from the Lokayatikas. The Lokayatikas are also known as Charvakas. In traditional Indian philosophy, the first philosophy that you study is Charvaka. Charvaka's philosophy is that there is no Atma. There are only four elements: earth, water, fire, air. They don't accept ether because you cannot see it. So they only accept these four elements. When these four elements are assembled in a particular manner, then you get human beings, animals, birds, and so on. And just as the property of intoxication arises when you prepare tambul, betel nuts. In a particular combination, when you put some property arises. Individually, each of those ingredients doesn't have that property, but when you put them together, then it produces a new property. So like that, individually, these elements, they don't have consciousness. You put them together, immediately then consciousness arises. So they have this idea. Tadrishaha tat chatushtaya bhutaha dehaha eva atma. The atma or the soul is nothing but the body. And the body itself, even though it is existing, at every moment it is changing. And certainly it takes birth at a point and it dies at a point. And this is very well known to people of this world, common people of this world. So this is the ideology of the Lokayatikas. Lokayatika itself means the philosophy of the common man, the man in the street. He believes that you are your body. Then you have the Buddhists. The Buddhists, they say that that there is a soul which is different from the body, but at every moment it is perishing. They accept reincarnation and karma, but they don't accept that as a soul. They think it's just like an alata chakra, like a firebrand. It's just consciousness arises and consciousness is full. So fast it is happening that you think that there is a soul, but actually there is no thing as a soul. But even according to both of these philosophies, you are not supposed to lament about the soul. So this is Lord Krishna's point, that even if you think that, even if you accept these ideologies, still you should not lament for this soul. Can someone read the purport?
There is always a class of philosophers, almost akin to Buddhists, who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as the Lokayutikas and Vaibhashikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at certain mature condition of material combination. The material modern scientists and materialistic philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage of life, symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and the chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions now becoming fashionable in America are also adhering to this philosophy and are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of certain bulk of chemicals and stop discharging his particular duty, prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, or he did not believe the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by the sinful reaction due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty arm, because he at least did not accept the theory of Vaibhashika, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles.
For the Charvaka ideology, it is very easily refuted by saying that if it is just by certain combination that consciousness arises, okay, so you combine them and prove that consciousness arises, that's all. You do it now. Even now the elements are available. You do whatever is needed and you produce consciousness. Because the Charvaka group, they don't even accept Anuman, logical inference. They accept only sense perception. So they were very seriously ridiculed. Because first of all, they said, you don't believe in logic. Why are you logically attacking us? Why are you giving logical arguments for your philosophy? You are saying that logic itself is invalid. If logic itself is invalid, why are you logically attacking? So, and also you cannot actually function without acceptance of logical inference. For everything you require. You go outside, your chapel is lost, and the person, your neighbor is wearing that chapel, instantly you lose logic. So that means he stolen my shoes. You cannot function without it. Just like you cannot function without sense perception. You cannot say that sense perception are rejected. You have to accept sense perception. You have to accept logical inference. And there are also certain subject matters which will force you to accept Shabda, authority, testimony. So, the Lokayatika philosophy is quite easily refuted. 27.
See, Vaibhashika is also given. That is.
There are 4 branches of Buddhism. Vaibhashika is one of them. Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, forget this. They come in Buddhism. Their philosophies are slightly different. The Buddhist philosophy is slightly different from the Charvaka, because the Buddhists accept Pratyaksha and Anuma. The Charvaka group does not accept it, accepts only Pratyaksha. And the Buddhists, they do accept reincarnation and karma. The Charvaka group doesn't believe in it. Charvaka group is just modern philosophy. They believe that the ultimate, the highest Purushartha, the highest goal in life is to embrace 1,000 women. That's why it's a very simple philosophy. Pranam Gritva Uttam Debate. Go use your credit card, but buy ghee. Buy ghee. Prabhupada says, even the greatest materialist of India is vegetarian. Yava Jeevan Sutam. As long as I live happily. After the body is burned, then well, there's no reincarnation. Just your life. Be happy. This is Charvaka. Just criticize like hell. Everybody, they get a beating of a lifetime. Everybody does Mayavadi, them. Vaishnavas. I mean, Vedanta, Vaishnava Vedanta. This Purva Mimamsa group, the logic, Nyaya group, everybody has something to say about Charvaka. Charvaka philosophy basically died. As a philosophy, you don't even have, very difficult to even locate Charvaka textbooks. Every philosophy in India was defended very strongly. In India, anything you say will be logically attacked. Anything you say, the Sanatana history of India, eternally, past, present, future will be like this. Anything you say, there will be somebody who will come up with an objection for it. And it will be logical. It will be evidence-based, logical attack. So, but Charvaka philosophy more or less died because you don't even have textbooks. They struggle very hard to find. We only know through third-party references, like this is just a reference to some philosophy. Before it was an active during Yudhishthira's time, that it died a natural death. Buddhism and all exists now. Exists meaning that there are people who follow Buddhism. So previously, Lokayatika ideology, it was a living philosophy. There were people following new sense. So nowadays we have modern philosophy, which is its reincarnation, let's say, where they try to come up with similar ideology. Modern people also use their intelligence to say that there is no soul. So, but it can be refuted. It's not true. One of the arguments against Charvaka itself can be remodeled, retrofitted to deal with all this. Okay. 27 we read?
No. Jatasya dharmatu dharmadhanavatasya tasmad priyayathe natvam sachitam mahasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
Okay. Here is a translation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's remark. Consider the philosophy of the logicians. If one is born, death is certain. If one dies, birth is certain. Why is birth certain? Because you have to experience the result of your karma. Therefore, since both are unavoidable, you should not lament. You will lower than the logicians if you are agitated by the lamentation. So even if you accept the ideology of the Nyaya school, then you have to come to this conclusion that there is no need to lament. वही युद्धात् निवृत्तेपि एते स्व आरंभके कर्मणि क्षीणे सति मरिष्यन्ति एव. Even if you don't go for this war, all these people, their karmic reactions have begun at the time their bodies were born. So they will certainly have to die by the force of their own karmic reaction through some other way. You cannot change destiny. Tavatu swadharmat vichutir bhavini. But what is going to happen is you are going to fall away from your engagement in your particular duty. This is what is being implied. The battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relative since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts of which he was so afraid. 28.
All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when inhabited. So, what need is there for lamentation?
So, whether you accept that the body and the soul are same, or whether you accept that the soul is different from the body, in either case, it is not appropriate that you lament when the body is destroyed. Because it's just these elements. These elements, one after another, they are formed and they are destroyed. In either case, you should not lament. What can someone read?
Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul and the other not believing in the existence of the soul. There is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if, for argument's sake, we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From this subtle state of non-manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether, air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. As a law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is a difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation, either in the stage of manifestation or in unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the very conclusion, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, that these material bodies are perishable, in due course of time, antavante me deha, but that the soul is eternal, nitya syoktah sharirinaha, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation, for growth, or for loss of the body.
See, one thing that Prabhupada often talks about, this is actually derived from the scriptures themselves, is that this life is like a dream. The reason why this point is brought out is, nighttime we go to sleep, we experience a dream. And then we come back to wakeful reality. But wakeful reality is relatively more, it is continuous. Yesterday, I went to sleep at my principal, my room. I woke up in my principal room only. Whereas in my dream, I might have been doing something. I might have, I don't know, gone on a long walk someplace. And then tonight when I go to sleep, my walk is not going to continue. Each dream is an individual unit of experience. No connection between that and this. It's not continuous. So one dream, we may be flying in the sky, another dream, we're drowning in the water, another dream. Each dream, each period of dream is not continuous. It's not a continuous series of experience. Whereas in Jagrata Avastha, wakeful stage, that I know, it's a continuous experience. Okay. So, but then that is within one lifetime. So in this lifetime, I'm a human being, I'm doing something. The past lifetime, I might have been, I don't know what, let's say I'm an animal or something. And next lifetime, let us say I'm some demigod or something. So between this lifetime and the next lifetime and the next lifetime and the next lifetime, there is no continuity. There's no continuity of experience. It's not that last lifetime I was a demigod. It's just frozen. And then next lifetime, it just resumes from there. It's not like that. It's entirely a new set of experience. Different set of variety that I'm experiencing. So because each lifetime is discontinuous, like a series of dreams, therefore it is considered to be dreamlike. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too seriously. Get out of the dream. Get out of the dream. Get out of the dream. This idea is brought out very seriously. Very strongly, this idea is brought. Actually, the entire methodology of Vedanta is how to bring us. Right now, our consciousness is focused on the external world. What can we do to experience the internal world? So this point is brought up. Ramanujacharya explains that he takes this point that the Upanishads say that the Supreme Lord is inside the soul. I mean, it's one of the many things. Supreme Lord is outside the soul, inside the soul, next to the soul. All of that is mentioned. But he particularly takes this one thing. Supreme Lord is inside the soul. So the living entity also should try to make the Lord happy. Right now, he is looking outside. We should turn the other way around and see the Lord. So right now we are focused on external happiness. How to gradually make us move internal. This is very much there. Therefore, we find in the practice of, for instance, Ashtanga Yoga, there is this idea that you should withdraw the senses from the sense objects. And you should focus. Even in our process of Bhakti Yoga, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains Harinam Chintamani and so on. We are supposed to chant Hare Krishna without being distracted. Either you look at the deity while you are chanting, or you close your eyes and you hear, which Prabhupada preferred. Be focused. Both are cases of pratyahara. Withdraw the senses from sense objects and you focus it on Krishna alone. So that concept is very strongly there because the external world can be a very great distracting reality. We should not become distracted by it. We will stop at this. You'll resume from text 21. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, great. शाश्वतः इति अपक्षयस्य प्रतिषेधः. It cannot dwindle. That is what Shashvata indicates. Shashvat sarvada bhavati, na apakshiyate, na apakshayam bhajati. It is not the recipient of the experience of dwindling. That is nitya. Well, nitya. Why it previously was not there and why it will not be there. Atra hetuho ajo nitya. That's what it is said. Ajaha nitya. It is unborn and eternal. Utpatti vinasha yogi khalu vrikshadihi. That which is fit for birth, generation and destruction, like a tree. Vidvan, it grows, nashtaha, and then is destroyed. Atmanaha tu tatu bhaya bhava. But the Atma does not have either of this. It is not generated, it is not destroyed. Na vriddhihi ityartha. It doesn't grow. So this nitya indicates that it is eternally that it does not grow. The Atma doesn't grow. Whereas Shashvata indicates that it does not dwindle. Different senses. Okay. So let's stop at that. Resume at 9:45.